2021 1 p.m. meeting. Roll call to my right.
Ruth Ann Moore.
James Ramel.
Andrew Greenwood.
Susie Claus.
If you all stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's move to council business. You want to go ahead and do your motion?
You want me to do that?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the interim utility administrator's contract for another 30 days.
I'll second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye, none opposed. Okay, next is on the 2015 Dodge Charger to open the sealed vehicle bids.
First one is from Zach Elliott for the 2015 Chrysler 200, a bid of $3,250.
I have to ask. Who?
No, I know.
Just take one.
Right.
And the second one is from Yusef Dabgah, D-A-B-B-A-G-H, for the 2015 Chrysler 200, $3,168, and for the 2015 Dodge Charger, $4,168.
Yeah.
Is that all?
That's all.
Oh, that's all, okay.
I'm sorry, my apologies.
No problem.
Just take them under-
Yeah, we'll just take them under consideration and go from there. Okay. Okay, Zach, Shrewsbury and Associates, Mike, let us know about you.
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm here to talk to you about the Kephart Park entrances, which hopefully you guys have 2 exhibits for. So, all right. So per the requirements, the entrances for Kephart Park are required to have acceleration and deceleration lanes and passing blisters, which is where we started out our design. Then we coordinated with Crossroads, who is working with MI Homes across the street, and they sent us their AutoCAD drawings for their improvements to State Road 144. So according to their drawings and the way State Road 144 will look, the curb or the lane taper starts basically at our eastern entrance and extends to the west. And then by the time you get to Saddle Club Road, it's wide enough for 3 lanes. So they have a left-hand turn lane into their new subdivision. We have the opportunity to basically keep that same lane width down to our western entrance to then provide a left-hand turn lane into the park in the future. So the question today is basically which option do you guys prefer? Do you guys prefer to have a left turn lane in or to provide a passing blister at that western entrance?
It's on 144.
Yes.
Right. So either a turning lane or passing blister.
What's the proximity from Saddle Club in 144 to our western entrance? What's the lineal footage?
I don't remember offhand, but I want to say it's around 280 linear feet. No, that's wrong. That can't be right, given the math. I have to look. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I remember talking about it with Julie, but I can't remember. But we do meet that requirement.
So there's multiple entrances that they could be turning on left from, and the distance between the two. So
Well, I know
Is
that
that-
also, that intersection is also one that has been identified for potential roundabout in the future.
Yes,
So that's,
that is correct. And when we laid out that western entrance, we took a roundabout. Obviously, it's not designed, but we took a roundabout that we felt would be very similar to what would be designed there and placed it in, and then put the entrance in the location we thought it was required.
and Crossroads has weighed in on this entrance location. I assume we have flexibility on how close it is to the intersection.
I don't think we want to move it any closer to the intersection.
Yeah, I'm thinking farther.
Yeah, I think.
I'm just asking if we have
Farther.
flexibility with it.
Um,
I'd like to see it farther. I'm worried about that. I mean, that's a pretty heavily traveled
Mhm.
road, and being that close to the intersection before there's a roundabout.
Right. So if you look at kind of NDOT standards, well, if you look at city standards, we meet the city standards for distance from the road, even with the roundabout. And then if you look at NDOT standards with the amount of traffic on 144, the acceleration lanes and deceleration lanes and passing blister aren't even what they call warranted. So you guys are requiring, above and beyond. You guys are already ahead of NDOT on that. So. But yes, we are in the planning stages, and if you feel that the western entrance needs to move, we can move it.
So the eastern, that's what my question is. If you do a passing blister and you're headed east, then you're gonna go there and then you'll have another entrance too. Is that, there's gonna be two passing blisters within a short period and that people could come in? Is that one entrance is what, I mean, that seems unsafe. Yeah,
Well, I mean, you might as well just do the whole thing.
as a turn lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, or that, yeah, because like I said, if you pass this and then there's cars there and you get back, and you might have to come back. On the blister.
That's probably 3 feet, and then you have-
You know,
Thanks, I appreciate that.
I just say the full turning lane if there's two, be safer.
So I think Julie's helped me out with some interpretation stuff here. Because right now, the way we're talking about, I'm viewing it from a road standpoint. I think maybe you guys are viewing it from the park standpoint. So I think the way the entrances are currently, it'll work for the park, but if we get too much closer together, then it would probably make more sense to just eliminate one of the entrances.
That's what we were wondering, if we can just do one entrance.
Technically,
More of a one grand entrance, I guess, is what I want to say.
yes, technically, that is
That's an
an option.
option as well.
Yeah, you move it
Personally, I would prefer to see one entrance and just
and put it in the middle.
and put it more towards the center of our property into that area.
Okay. I mean, we can look at that.
Yeah.
It definitely goes against the master plan. I don't know if you guys care about that or,
I think we're at such infancy stage, we can make some modifications.
all right, we can do that.
All right.
So one entrance in the middle,
With the turn lane.
with a turn lane.
Yeah.
Stay away from where we're putting that future roundabout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you put it in the middle of the two,
Okay.
then you're ample distance from the entrance to the next residential neighborhood.
to the east and far enough away from the
Okay.
roundabout. And then I would advise to get with Structure Point Crossroad and make sure that you have a good idea of what that roundabout, even if it's a preliminary from them, since they're like the roundabout kings.
Right.
So that way you have a good idea of what that is
Okay.
going in there.
Now, one thing I would like to mention, when we had two entrances, the western entrance, we were proposing the left turn lane because of the proposed section that Crossroads is putting together. We would basically only have to widen the road a foot at that instance to be able to get, your lanes plus the turn lane. So by moving this entrance further to the east, we're going to be adding more asphalt to the project. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
I think we understand.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Look at safety here.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and just kind of a clarification, while we've identified that roundabout as one of our priority projects, it's on the county's inventory, so they would manage that, and they don't currently have anyone under contract for that design.
I was gonna say, maybe he should talk to Neil or,
Yep.
yeah,
I had a
Or Luke.
conversation with Luke about that whole
Yeah,
thing
Luke or Neil.
yesterday.
Okay.
and just kind of say what's your basic
Yep.
roundabout with that, yeah.
All right, Kevin, we have an ordinance extending the sewer summer credit from 4 to 6 months. Go ahead, sir. If anybody has questions?
Good afternoon. This has been under discussion for about 6 months or so, that we would like to add 2 more months to the summer sewer credit period. Right now, we're kind of out of line with surrounding communities, and it's a lot of additional legwork in-house when folks are calling in and saying, hey, we've just had sod put in and would like a credit on our sewer bill for this. The process we go through right now is they provide an invoice that it's been paid, and then we'll apply a credit. So we like to kind of clean this up, add 2 more months to summer sewer credit. It's a simple on-off in our billing system, and it should cut down on the amount of interaction that we're having with customers by extending this time frame. So we'd like that to be considered today. For the billing department. So again, going from 4 months to 6 months. We've had Baker Tilly look into this. We could see a reduction of revenues for wastewater, potentially up to $50,000. But that's just an estimate right now.
What brought this up is that we're not up to speed with other.
Just a lot of folks reaching out to us during the summer months, and mainly if we look at the time period here, I believe adding
May
is it May
and September.
and
Your
September.
current period is June through September. But what we get is a lot of people calling in late April, early May to fill pools,
That's what I was gonna say.
or the ones that have the new developments coming in, or the grass improvements beginning of fall. And the extension of 6 months would pick up those biggest adjustment periods, and it would actually reduce down your labor. I know when we talked about it with Kevin, their stack of documents or what they're adjusting on a monthly basis is ridiculously big. So I know that the beginning and the end extension would benefit activity and customers both.
And this chart is what we're doing now, June through September. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, we've already got reduction in revenues, or that's what we're doing now. So,
Probably gonna do that by manual.
yeah, manually. So that's what we're doing now. So, I definitely agree with May. Because I think you do have a lot of water usage in May, especially, if we have a warmer spring. So, any other questions from the council?
And we can do this if council gives permission for this, evaluate over this summer and see whether or not it worked or it didn't work, and come back and revise if need be. They don't believe October will have a huge impact on us, but I would say leave that in there and we'll just monitor it and see how the reduction in the workload goes, and track the revenue.
Okay. If I don't have any other questions or input, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-04.
Have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. Aye, none opposed. Thanks, Kevin, appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead and stay up there and let's hear the next one here.
So the next one is to amend the salary ordinance to add a customer service supervisor position, salary range of $48,477 to $65,787. We hope to fill this ASAP. We are ready to start interviews, but pending today's outcome of adding this to the salary ordinance.
And this is already budgetarily, we have the funds to do this.
We're converting a position, and with positions being unfilled for so long, I don't foresee a budget deficit.
Any questions, council? Comments? Okay. Seek a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-05.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Yeah, aye, none opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, appreciate it. All right. Jane?
So you've got a packet. I had 3 parts to it. One was just an intro. This is coming up because the state is changing the requirements for capital asset reporting, and it was a compliance report on our audit for the past 2 years. They've been training on it, which is what the first 3 slides of your packet was just what Baker Tilly and the SBOA recommend as your actions to get capital assets in line with state reporting. The topic 1 is actually the policy we drafted with the resources listed and then appendixes with classifications and an asset management form. We worked with Baker Tilly, Dan Hedden, who put his blessing on it. And what he said we needed to do was present it to you so that you're aware that there is a policy, and ask you to support as we implement and train it throughout the entity. It's just very standard. It doesn't take an approval or disapproval. It is more of, this is what's been drafted for a capital policy for financial reporting. So I'm making you aware of it. But the other topic 2, is the next thing that we need to go, and that is part of our comment was that we do not have a good capital asset inventory, and this is entity-wide assets. So this would be all departments, all venues. There are hit and miss assets, and a lot of it hasn't come into the clerk's office. I don't even know what they are. So we are asking to start investigating a company who can help us do an inventory of our assets. I know you guys haven't been here, but this was a topic of conversation even 2012-13. Our database that we have was developed prior to 2011, just using invoices. It's been through many, many people, not well maintained, and it has old and it has missing. So there's no decision other than we'd like your agreement that maybe we should go investigate and see what kind of costs we're looking at to get that inventory done, to go along with the two things the state has asked us. So I'm more informing you than anything and asking for you to work with us for inventory. It wouldn't be dealing with a database. It wouldn't be anything like this. We have to have something that's reportable to the state by the end of the year.
I thought we had technology we approved. So, we approved it last year. I remember approving it.
So multiple pieces to this. So we have conducted asset management review on wastewater, and we'll be doing the same on water. So that will help collect our assets. And our goals, we've not come to council yet for the asset management work order preventive maintenance stuff yet. That's still pending. So the goal is to kind of wrap this all together and see if we can figure out the financial piece that they need and that will satisfy the state. So maybe we can utilize one system that will help all departments. So Strain has already done the wastewater side of it. It's being looked at now from a preventative maintenance point of view, but I think we've done some of the legwork on this. And if we can make this all work under one package, great, but we may find that financials needs may be different than what we're using it for, but we can export out. So maybe the legwork of collecting all this data will already be taken care of, hopefully.
Some of it's the timing, and for the accounting side, we need electric, water, sewer, stormwater, police, streets, town itself. Everybody's got the assets that we have to get accounted for in it. I was hoping possibly, and we hadn't talked, because I knew that there was a database coming, would be to get some kind of person or group who can do the inventories of the things that have not been looked at or documented, do a review, get a listing together, something that will work for the state, because we've got 9 more months. And that it will combine in with the data that comes along when you build it.
Who would the point person be on that? If your utilities, you're counting your inventory, and Julie's counting her inventory, who's the point person here? Are we talking about, is the clerk just reporting it, or who is heading this?
So the way the trainings I've been doing is for the reporting to the state, which is just an accounting, that is through us. I mean, a list technically would be coming in. If there's changes, we would hope, and that's the support I'm asking for, we would hope that the departments would communicate with us. We can communicate back, hey, what's the deal with this? If there's a change, and we have changes going on right now. We've got the 2 street department vehicles that are going to change. They have a value, we're assigning to it. That would actually need to run through our asset policy and into our reporting. We have a couple other things. We've got the new lane. I couldn't even tell you if we have all of our easements listed as an asset right now. And easements count in state reporting as land.
You say the state is requiring us to have this in place by the end of the year?
It was supposed to be in place last year. They were, with the year that we had, they were a mild comment we did have a draft policy we needed to get presented to you and put in place, and then we need to update our inventory listing, our listing of assets.
So can you get us a copy of what the state board's recommended from you?
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
report?
and
I've never
the,
seen your actual report.
what I've got is a massive spreadsheet that is just awful. And what they want is a summation of our assets, what we own, what we've added to, and what we've reduced. And we're not in any kind of group way communicating well amongst ourselves we're the reporters, to the reporters. We don't have any tools in process, which was what the policy was for, to help us when everybody know what we're talking about when we're talking about assets, to have a form or a way to transfer it. And we've seen some of these actions coming out when we've talked about disposals. All of a sudden there's been, hey, if you're disposing, do this form. With the vehicles, I actually gave, and I don't know if they remember, Bethany and Julie, the asset form that's attached to the back of the policy. Okay, so we're going to transfer this. There are no rules or processes in place for this. So on the accounting side, for us to be able to accountably report to the state, since the state of Indiana is a cash accounting state, and they're trying to go to more GAAP reporting, they are really moving into this idea. So this, and again, this is a thing. For the town as an entity, we do need to do a policy, which this does, and we do need to have an updated accounting of our assets and the reductions and increases in them for the 2021 year. So
Do we
If-
do we need to adopt this policy?
no, it's not an adoption or anything.
Support the adoption of the policy?
I need you to support us as we push through to your department heads and try to build a collaboration between us all so we can get a good reporting of data.
And then you're gonna do an RFP?
I'm just looking for, are you going to be okay if I come in and say, hey, I've been shopping around, kind of got some price quotes, this is what they can do with us, do we think it will fit?
Well, I think
I'm just to that point.
my take is you need to do an RFP for proposals to.
We could do
For
one,
for the items or the areas where Kevin's not already has a process in place,
well, and
or Julie for that matter, I don't
And
know.
then come to us with a plan of how you plan to communicate, or what's your plan of
that's
doing
what I
something.
need from you, the guidance of what you want. I don't want to,
I'd still like to
move
see the
ahead.
report.
So the clerk's role would be, the department heads would do their inventory, get them to you, and you just report it. They implement this system. Is that what you're saying?
no, well, it has nothing to do with the software. The software, hopefully when you put it in, will provide all the information and they're actually in doing it.
So you're
I
gonna,
think what we need to do is talk to our department heads.
right,
and
that's
see-
what I was gonna say,
see
to
how-
get Kevin and Julie
So we're
involved.
not double.
Right, and because your wing is reporting it to SBOA. I don't know how they're getting it to you. I know we've talked about it. So,
So, I was just hoping to come up with some kind of solution to help get us to the place where that is not a compliance issue in the future, which puts us on a restricted time frame, and software doesn't always fit restricted time frames. Not to double spend, and I think that's a good, concern. But how do we get it amassed? Possibly, and we're down to 2 right now, possibly someone coming in to do the amassing between your department heads for the reporting that doesn't really, that stops one time. And then we are hopefully working as a group with the communication. But that's all, it needs to be talked about and thought about. We'll run out of time and things always come up ahead. So, thank you.
thanks, appreciate it.
It's definitely something after it's all put together, it's gonna be tough to.
Right.
We're starting working.
Okay, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from March 9th meeting? And if you have any questions, comments, or motions?
Make a motion to approve the minutes for the March 9th regular meeting.
I have a first and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. Okay, motion approved. Okay, claims for the council. Has everybody had a chance to look at the claims? Any questions?
You've gotten a report back from the clerk's office
About the bank fees? No, we do have the reports. Yeah.
I don't know if we can have further discussion on the bank fees, not today, but I've got some input on that, and I'd like to sit down with you, the council members, if I can, to kind of maybe explain how we got to this point and
Okay.
where we'd like to go from here, if all possible.
Yeah.
Include whoever needs to be included, but I think it'd be worth a discussion.
Yeah. Since I brought the bank fees up, I'd be happy to sit down with you as another council member. Everything. Are you good? Okay.
Okay.
Just let us know. And
Thanks, appreciate that.
Conversation. Do I have any, are you making a motion? Do we have any other questions?
No, I don't have.
Okay. You have any questions?
No.
I think Susie's still looking through it. Are you good? Okay, if there's no questions or comments, can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the expense since February 2021.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. The aye, none opposed. Thank you. Julie?
Good afternoon. First item I have for you today is hopefully awarding our community crossing contract. We opened the bids last week, and Roy and David have both reviewed the bid results and can answer questions on the specific items that were included in those. I included a letter in your packets. Harding Group is the apparent low bidder on this project. Go ahead, ma'am.
I was gonna say Roy's letter
Yes, ma'am.
has the same items.
Yep.
in that.
And I'll let David or Roy speak to your options regarding those. So there were missing items from their submission, and the general conditions state that the town reserves the right to reject for any irregularities, or that they can waive those.
We asked them to provide them.
Absolutely.
Provide them.
Yeah. You can ask them to provide them, and you can award it subject to their providing that.
We're going consistent with any of the other ones that,
They were actually requested that, and they provided those back quickly, immediately, basically.
They've already been provided.
they
Oh, they haven't?
provided.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
they were asked and they responded.
Yeah, they didn't seem like items that were
Mhm.
on her shit.
Outlandish.
No.
No, they weren't items that were.
Yeah,
We did.
I've got a copy. They just happened to come in after the packets went out.
Sure.
So if the council would so choose, then we would award for the full contract amount of $999, $934.10. Just for the record.
Yep.
Okay, do I have any other
Yeah.
questions or comments or motion?
I'll make a motion to accept or to award to the Harding Group for the amount of $999,934.10.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second.
And to allow the council president to go ahead and execute that contract so we can get that into NDOT.
You want to add that to your motion and not to exceed?
Yeah.
Okay.
What she
Not to
Not to
exceed,
exceed.
not to exceed $999,934.10 and to allow council president to execute the contract.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. I'm sorry.
Susie seconded that one.
Susie, second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get that, Becky?
Yes.
The correction, thank you. Okay. Okay.
All right. The next item I have for you is requesting to send out requests for proposals to bring on a consultant to update our park impact fee and master plan so that we can get that done while we're still in the correct window before that fee expires.
Consensus on that?
Okay. I'm good with that. Consensus. Are you okay with that? Good, yeah. Is that
Get
it?
that sent out. That's all I have unless you have questions.
I just had one question.
Absolutely.
The update on the Hammerama, did he email anything?
I will send that out to you.
Okay,
He is available to be here at the next meeting. He will have something related to an item I believe Kevin is going to put on the agenda at the next
Okay.
meeting. So we can do that, but
but he did send you an email.
he did send
Okay,
me a
Okay,
quick email, so
okay,
we'll get that sent out for everyone.
thank you. All right, Mr. Director Joe.
Afternoon. First item this afternoon is, as you know, we've been engaging consultants to develop a unified development ordinance for the town. A few weeks ago, the review committee conducted interviews with 2 respondents and returned a unanimous decision to move ahead with HWC and Civic Blueprint with this project. What I'm asking the council this afternoon is just the blessing for staff to work with legal to enter into the develop the contract, and we'll bring that back for council approval.
Yes.
Yes.
Consensus.
Thank you. Second item is a performance bond for right-of-way permit 2218-2021. This is for QC Communications installation of telecommunication lines in Morningside Section 5. Bond amount of $2,370.
Yeah.
Motion to accept the performance bond number B1241025 in the amount of $2,370 for the installation of underground telecommunication lines in Morningside Section 5.
I'll second.
I have a first by Mr. Greenwood, a second by Ms. Balls. All in favor? Right hand. Aye. Motion carries.
That is all this afternoon.
So thank you, we appreciate it. Mr. Bertram.
I don't have anything for the meeting. We do have a rolling inventory, so a consolation. Other than that,
We just like to hear your voice.
Can you get the blue book value of the 2 vehicles?
do you want me to get this for you?
Yeah.
I sure can.
That'd be helpful.
Sure can.
Well, I think that's all for today. There's Kevin. I
There's
tried.
that other page.
Yeah, I tried.
I'm sorry, I didn't see
The
that.
whole green area.
Julie, I might need my power adapter here in a little bit. Well, good afternoon again. We'll start off here. I've got a few items for council today. The first item is NDOT tree clearing. So this is in relation to the I-69 project and an easement we are working on Speedway. So NDOT has asked us to kind of take over on the tree clearing for this project. And we're still working on getting permission to do the tree clearing. We had a court session today on it, and we're still working on some details. But today I'm asking for permission. When we're given the go-ahead, we need to start on the tree clearing ASAP. We have a really high estimate here, and this is all 100% reimbursable by NDOT. The latest estimate was $315,000. We're expecting this to be much less than $315,000. We're still checking with some other contractors, but I want to make sure that I'm clear to a certain amount from council. That way we don't lose time for me coming back. So since this was submitted, I'm actually can lower this number if the council's okay with approving not to exceed 50,000. Our first one came in really high, and after the contractor went on site, they came back with a much lower number. So I think we're going to be well under the 50,000. So that's some good news.
So we're going from 315,000 to 50,000?
Yeah.
How long will it take us to get reimbursed? Is this the one where it's like 5 years maybe?
No, we're submitting invoices. I believe it's every 2 weeks to NDOT. We're a little behind with staff change. We weren't submitting reimbursement, but we're trying not to overwhelm NDOT's system. So we submit an invoice about every 2 weeks. So I would say less than a year will be paid back.
It takes them about 45 days to process one.
Right, and not like
It,
the other project where it was like 2 or 3 years potentially.
so it's when they owe you a refund.
Got it.
Right. You never get it.
All right. So this isn't a refund, this is a reimbursement.
Correct.
Totally different.
So-
Yeah.
So you're looking for us to approve an amount, not a chunk of it? Is
Correct.
that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay. So we would still have to approve the bid, is that, or?
No, I just approve a dollar amount for me, so I can say go as soon as we're allowed legal access, and we can keep things moving along.
And it is 100%.
Yes,
And it's a pre-approved vendor from NDOT.
yeah, it's a vendor that's already on site.
Right, so that's why there's not a
Right.
vendor selection program, because they've already done it.
I'll make a motion not to exceed $50,000 for tree clearing for the, what do you want to say, NDOT?
I would say
Water main
Speedway
project?
property.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Wells, second by Mrs. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. You're opposed.
Thank you. The next item is a risk assessment that is being required by, I believe it's EPA is the federal government arm that's requiring an assessment of our IT infrastructure and what if scenarios on our water system. So if a main were to break here, how do you guys handle that? So we have some deadlines that are coming up, and I discussed this with previous staff some months ago, and we haven't moved on this yet. So now, like everything, we're under the timeline. So trying to get to the EPA document here that gives us the dates.
June 30th.
June 30th?
Yep.
Okay. So Baker Tilly has expressed interest back in 2019. I reached back out to them, and that gentleman is no longer with Baker Tilly. Scott Miller from Baker Tilly advised that They could do the IT assessment, but they do not have the capacity to do the operational assessment of disaster recovery. I did learn right before the meeting that I do have a reduction in the not to exceed. So I believe the item was at 66,000 originally, and I think that can be lowered to, I believe it's 55,000.
55.5.
55.5. So Strand obviously is very involved with our SCADA infrastructure and how it is set up. They can do the water disaster recovery assessment. So I would ask that we engage with them to complete both of these for us to meet our timeline of June 30th.
This has to be done, completed by June 30th.
And I would say on the IT stuff, we're pretty organized in that. So that assessment should go fairly easy. And again, Strand's Wisconsin office does our SCADA. So they're very in tune with what we have. And then with Strand doing our water modeling and major projects and knowledge of the system, I believe we should be able to meet this deadline if we can get the go-ahead today.
Yeah, you gotta start now. I mean, if you're gonna get there are several meetings, a lot of process involved in doing this event, then reflected in the cost. There's quite a bit of time that goes into it. So this is sort of the, not, after this, you've got to regroup and think something differently.
Is this something, will we have to do this every year going forward?
You'll have to review this every 5 years,
Every
like a
five?
lot of things. Once it's in place, it's just gonna keep up with it type of thing. And this kind of really grows out of what was the Terrorist Act of 2000, whatever. After that, this kind of expands that to include natural disasters and many other events other than just terrorist type activity. So it really gets much more detail into earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, anything, a truck going off the road, hitting a piece of your infrastructure. What do you do? What impact does that have? And then how do you prioritize those things for protecting those very, very key pieces of your assets that cost you dearly if they were to go offline? So it's an involved process.
We have a shared calendar for things like this that we'll make sure we plug in this date that we know, and we're not kind of rushing in 5 years to do this reassessment. So we'll make sure we get this added on that as another regulatory item that we need to complete.
I don't think we have an option on this. Again, so. Any other questions?
Is this budgeted? Or is this a surprise, right?
It wasn't a surprise for IT. I had this budgeted on my portion. And on the water side, we're still working on budgets for water, so we'll make sure that it's reflected and how that impacts our capital projects and projects going forward. So we'll make sure it's covered.
Any other comments or questions? Then I would seek a motion.
I'll make a motion to, authorize Kevin to work with Strand to take care of the requirement for the EPA risk and resilience assessment in a dollar amount not to exceed $55,500.
We have a motion by Mr. Greenwood,
I'll second.
a second by Ms. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Aye. None opposed.
Thank you.
Keep moving.
The next item is, we discussed this a few meetings ago and needed to follow up with the actual paperwork. So this is the White River Crossing lift station design fee to finish the design on this lift station. We've started those discussions again, but I was asked to come back with the actual task order or the approval for this additional design of $15,000 to finish the design of that lift station. We've got an open PO for it, but we need to adjust that PO to add the additional funds.
I'll make a motion to approve the lift station design fee for White River Crossing in an amount not to exceed $15,000.
I'll second.
I have a motion, Ms. Greenwood, and second by Ms. Qualls. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye, none opposed. Okay.
Thank you. And I think, just now, sorry, looking at the attachment, skip ahead here. Okay. Let's see, our next item is another task order for the water side. So we have had a lot of work, a lot of projects for the town and the water utility. And when we originally set the task agreement for water, we set that originally low, knowing that we would come back to the council later. I was thinking maybe summer, but with the development on the east side of 135, we're here sooner. So we're asking to increase our on-call water service agreement by an additional $15,000.
Kevin, with all the work that we're doing, are we passing along any of those review and other expenses to the developers?
So the initial planning right now, no. But when those developments are ready to submit for construction plans and when they have, their direction from us, then we will get, I can't say we'll get 100% reimbursement, but we will get some reimbursement. And it's probably something we need to look at. I don't think I have anything in black and white that I can recoup some of these dollars, because we're in a unique situation where we're working on our capital investment projects, and these projects are driving a lot of that. So right now I don't have a handle on the best way to recoup some of these dollars due to these developments that haven't started yet, but it's something that we'll look into and see how we can make sure it's fair for both, the developer and the water utility.
If I could, I think we need to have a discussion on at what point we require them to sign the review agreement and submit documents. Given that in this case, they've had a couple of different designs and phasing. So whether that's something council needs to put into the review agreement so that we're consistent, or whether that's any time that Strand has to run the hydraulic model, but making sure that we have certain checkpoints that we are requiring that, if that's what you're asking, Andrew.
Well, I just, consistently hear developers complain.
Uh-huh.
I can say that. Common, right? Go through all these hurdles, you pay all these things, but we're constantly spending money as a town to make sure we are development friendly. So I'd like the public record to show that we haven't been charging every last nickel to the builders and the developers for what we're doing, but we do need to reassess and make sure that when we are getting specific plans, but this is to be clear, this is for the master, like this is for the whole enchilada. This is for
Right.
big picture stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Developer, on this 20 acres, you should pay X for our water tower.
Yeah, we just had probably a fourth meeting on a project yesterday here for this area that we're trying to serve, and multiple check reviews with the city of Greenwood that Jim has been involved with. And they did mention yesterday that Bargersville has been very good and pleasant to work with on the utility side of things. So we don't hear that often, but I wanted to pass that along when you make that statement. Yeah.
See if they'll give us a statement,
Yeah.
put it on the website.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's something we need to look at. It's probably the busiest time that I can recall here from a utility perspective on projects and demand and the need to really come up with a good game plan. So we have been, spending a lot of time on this. I would say that the demand and the growth has certainly outpaced our master plan, what we originally had thought. New areas are being looked at for development that we did not originally include in the master plan. So this will kind of help us continue to work on that path.
Any other questions? Motion or?
I make a motion to amend number 1 to the task order of number 21-01 in an amount not to exceed $30,000. A change of $15,000, so total not to exceed of $30,000.
Motion by Mr. Green, do I have a second?
Second.
With a second by Ms. Moore, all in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. And opposed?
Thank you. And I'll shift gears here to IT. We've had some planning meetings back in the beginning of the year on our pathway for software and how do we become more efficient and more friendly for the development and so forth coming to the town. And part of that is taking the next step in our electronic plan review. So we've been using, it's called CSS, which is a way for folks to apply for certain things through the planning department. And I would say less than a month ago, we all sat through some training. It's called Bluebeam, which is used to electronically review plans and make notes and so forth. So the last piece of this now is to integrate that with our planning software. So it's almost all 100% digital, if not already or will be. And to make that investment, we're asking to spend $15,000 to add the e-review component to our planning software to take that next step for full digital plan review. There is a reoccurring fee after we do this
Recurring fee on that.
of $2,500
A year?
So that'll be added to our other reoccurring fees that we currently pay Tyler Technology. And one thing about, we kind of discussed internally, like when do we pull the trigger on this? Obviously, I'm not sure if we ever got slow, but certainly getting into a busier time of season. And one thing we're up against is getting our name or queue in line with Tyler to get on their schedule. So if we can give them the go ahead, then I believe their lead time was less than 90 days to get us implemented. So we would like to hopefully give them the go ahead on this after today, and we'll start prepping and getting that worked in our schedule for training and go live.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion or comments?
Make a motion to approve the purchase request for $15,000 for software for the planning department.
I have a motion by Ms. Moore.
I'll second.
I have a second by Mr. Green. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. None opposed?
Thank you.
You're on a roll.
Yes, let's not run out of steam here, so keep going here. The next item is some maintenance. Steve Skirvin's called me up to the South Water Plant a few weeks ago. We've got these large CO2 tanks or recarb tanks. So these are concrete structures that are probably 40 foot tall above ground, and it's like a channel. So it's part of our water processing equipment. And at the bottom of these tanks builds up sediment from the process. So the south plant, we've tried to clean once. And the north plant, we don't recall the last time it was cleaned. So you can see some pictures, I believe, at the end of this. Kind of hard to see, but essentially a sand-looking material there at the bottom. Some of it is thick as a couple of feet. Obviously, the walls you can see need to be power washed, and we would like to do this before busy season. We looked at it's kind of a unique job to do. So I actually reached out on one of our Facebook groups for water distribution and plant folks and companies and utilities and threw it out on there to find out who kind of does this work, and was directed to this Cooley contractor that did a site visit. They will do all the safety precautions. It's obviously a confined space. They will be able to what we call decant, so they will be able to vacuum this stuff out and leave it on site, so we don't have the off-site disposal fees. Another item that we'll make sure that we're going to add in our maintenance software as a reoccurring thing. I would say we'll probably need to do this every 3 to 5 years, probably maybe closer to 5. That plant's been online since 2013, and it's pretty full, but it's not that bad. So I think we could probably get by maybe doing this every 5 years. And the cost for this is $11,700, and they will do both plants at the same time. We'll do one plant and then move.
So there's just one tank per plant.
Get one tank per plant, yep.
This is pretty highly specialized, I think, safety-wise. And
Yeah, we, yeah. Mhm.
do I have any other questions, motions?
So a motion to approve the cleaning out of the CO2 tanks not to exceed $11,700.
Motion by Mr. Greenwood.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pauls. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, none opposed.
Thank you. All right, back to software. For some time now, we've been trying to figure out the best way to handle pole attachments. So when a communication company or someone likes to come in and attach to our poles, there's a process where they submit an application. They have to do an analysis if their attachments will cause the poles to fail in high wind. So sometimes those poles need to be switched out with the applicant paying for that. And in the industry is some software that most of them use. And we did a demo on this a while back. Had a lot of communication between REMC and ourselves. It's called SPANS. And what happens is, let's take, for example, like MetroNet. MetroNet would actually submit through this program and then gets into our queue and then goes through the approval process from the contract, the engineering, the approval. It just really cleans that up and really helps out on being a little more efficient on that and turning those back around. That investment is $11,500. I did ask REMC to weigh in on this. They are a user of this program, and they've provided an email to the council that they would recommend this investment for the town. So reoccurring fees, we're not doing pole attachments every day. So we're thinking above and beyond the 11.5, we're probably going to be under $2,000 for the ongoing applications that are submitted, or the applications or our communication from here. Those additional fees, we're pretty sure we're going to be under $2,000 a year for that kind of stuff. There is some recurring on as far as on how often we want to update the GIS. So we add a bunch of utility poles. There's a small, I believe, $500 fee, maybe even $1,000, that requires us to update their system. But with our activity on our electrical system, we're not adding poles every day. So I don't foresee that being a huge expense.
Does RMC have to approve any pole attachments because we're contracted with them?
What we do is when we receive the application and the engineering review, then we send that over to REMC to review and price how much it's going to cost. Usually they're going to do the work for us. So yeah, they're,
So if they have to approve it, could they, since they have the programming, they're probably gonna run that through their programming also, as a.
no, their program is strictly for their REMC infrastructure. So their engineering review is not, the program doesn't interact with it that way. It's more of a checklist. So it comes into our queue and then we'll send that to them and they're going to pull it out of the system, do the review, and let us know like, hey, they need to change 6 poles out and here's the cost to change 6 poles out. We enter the information into SPANs and they get an automatic notification that here's what you need to do and they need to agree to that. Invoicing, receiving the check, authorizing the work, all that stuff plays into this.
Kevin, why is it coming out of the IT department and not the electrical department?
So all software comes out of IT, and then of course IT budget is shared between all the utilities. And that Jane's not in here. So usually when we have something that is 100% electric in this case, when they book this, they're going to make sure that they book out of that shared department cost that all of this is directed towards the electric fund.
Should be 100%.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Make sure it gets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When I see it, we'll do the purchase order on this and I'll see the disbursement
Is it a
fund.
3-year deal?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch, what were the recurring fees on this?
We're estimating about $2,500. Just depends on the activity of how many pole attachments are coming.
If you had to average how many we had the last year,
Well, I've had 2 in the last 30 days. So prior to me, I'm not sure how many we've had. So that's something I can look into, but I've had 2 alone just in the last 30 days. Some of those have taken quite a bit of time. It's actually probably longer than 30 days ago because I know I've been dealing with Comcast probably for 3 months and we still have some outstanding issues with Comcast on pole attachment agreements. So at some point we'll have to do an inventory, and when we do an inventory, the folks that are attached share in that cost of the inventory. But it'd be nice to have this program to actually document who's on which pole and where and how many connections. And right now, I'm not sure that we have a good handle on that. So
Oh, so there's no like system that says who's on what pole.
we have old agreements that say that, CenturyLink is on 30 poles, and some of these agreements go back to the 60s and further back. And then, of course, you can imagine CenturyLink has changed their name 7 times, so it's difficult to kind of go back. So this is kind of bring this all together and keep it all in one place.
Any other questions or comments? Any motion?
motion to approve software, pole attachments and agreements not to exceed $11,500.
I have a motion from Mr. Greenwood. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Moore. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed.
Thank you.
I think he needs to slow down.
You want some water?
We're almost there. I've got a little bit left here, so.
You've taken up more than enough time.
Yes.
The next item is just a little bit over my spending limit. So usually I don't bring computers to the council because they're usually under the $2,500, but our GIS department uses a higher power computer, as you can imagine. So the price is over my threshold. So I would like to replace the computer for the GIS department for $2,999.
Move the approval for a new computer for the GIS department for $2,999.
Motion, Ms. Wall, not to exceed.
Not to exceed 2,000.
Do I have a second by Mr. Moore? All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. None opposed?
Thank you. Next item is West South Street sanitary main replacement. So we are working better inside internally on cross department on projects. And I would say that on our Irma Street project, we had some issues with the sanitary line. It's probably something we should have replaced when we rebuilt that street. So on the next project, Roy had reached out to me and had asked about this, and we've had some discussions about this. So that is a clay sanitary line that we would like to replace. We're estimating the cost at $42,000. This would be my suggestion would be a change order after your contractor is hired and so forth on the job, that we would ask for a change order on the project to include the sanitary line replacement for this. Roy, did I miss anything? Is that pretty much?
Pretty much it. That we would hopefully just have a small design fee that would, roll into that. We've already got all the survey and street design done and the survey information picking up the sanitary. It is very, very shallow. We've been able to do the street work around it, but it really is a good idea to replace that this time. And it's something that would be challenging, I think, to protect at the depth it is right now. So getting it in new and getting it deeper would be a great idea. Particularly like Kevin says, all the streets or up, so.
What are you asking for?
So with that design fee, we're expecting $42,000. So we want consensus or vote that yes, we agree to replace the sanitary line. Julie has permission to, authorize a change order when the time comes right. They'll most likely be some discussions. But I want to make sure council is okay with this. This obviously would come out of the sewer fund. I'll make sure Baker Tilly reflects this on our capital plan as they're starting to finish that up.
So Roy, did you do the estimates on this?
Yes.
We would bring it back to us when, at such time as having the time.
You would need to authorize a change order. So yeah, she would have an official documentation.
Yeah, we
Yeah, so
officially,
consensus to
we need consensus to move forward.
I'm good.
You should always replace clay tile if you can.
that would be good for Baldwin.
Is that something you
Not having
put,
clay.
Needs to be done.
is that something you put lead wires on everything that we replace? Are
What's that?
we putting lead wires on everything now, even sewer, and when we replace it?
Typically sewer, you don't unless it's a specific unique installation. So usually from manhole to manhole is a straight flow line. But the force mains, we make sure we put a trace wire on
Going
those.
forward?
Yeah.
Definitely.
So what's the criteria when you said Irma should have been done? What criteria do you use to?
I would say if it's a street that we're rebuilding and it still has clay sanitary lines, it should be automatic.
Yeah, I just don't understand why.
Yeah, I don't know on Irma on if it was discussed or if it was brought up. I just know it was damaged during the project and we're having some issues with the piping has shifted. So now it's hard for us to get a camera through there. And we obviously would rather not cut the brand new road up. But that is a possibility down the road. So
I think anytime we do something in Old Town that has clay,
Yeah.
we got, that has to be on
Yeah.
The conversation needs to be had.
yeah.
Right.
And we don't know where some of that is, I
Right.
think, even, especially on Trestle or.
we are discussing a new project maybe here in the next year or so. And Julie and I've had some brief conversations. We've got some issues behind Reds with the sanitary line. And would like to explore cost share with streets, water, sanitary, and storm. and potentially even Vectren. So all of us are in that alley, and we like to scope that out where the initial engineering includes all of it. Not Vectren, but all of our utilities and road would be in this initial package. Everybody would cost share in that project.
So
So
we might be able to look in the sewer assessment fund also.
yeah,
Part of that we might be able to use
yeah. I mean, all the funds should help
on
with
the,
that.
on the monthly bill.
Okay, good on consensus with that?
Yes, I think, yes, that's good, Ruthina.
Thank you. The next item is design services for water improvements. So at the last meeting, 2 meetings ago, I asked permission for an RFQ for the 12-inch main to fill this new water tower that we're working on for Stones Crossing. And that is in progress. The next piece is you have its task order with Strand for the preliminary engineering review of this water tower. As soon as we're done with the survey, that step in the project will be complete. So the next step is to design the tower, design a ground storage tank, and design a pump station and design a pump station rehab. All those pieces are linked together. All those things have to come together and be designed and built together to stay on task, to meet our deadline, hopefully of early 2023. So today, Jim is here. He can probably come up here and talk a little more about this process and what it takes to make all these pieces come together.
As Kevin mentioned, and we've been working on this project on probably at least one council before this and sometime with the prior utility coordinators and administrators, and finally come to the point where now you think we've got a site at the Emmanuel Church, possibly in a property exchange and a purchase, and Dave's looking into some Greenwood requirements perhaps that we need to work out. But we've been talking with these developers. It's been made very clear, it's imperative we get this tank out there and get it built as quickly as reasonably possible. And to do so, we're getting to that point where we're going to have to transfer from the preliminary design to the final design, bidding, and then actually constructing that tank, which is at least a 15-month process, maybe an 18-month process, depending on weather and when you can paint something like that. Because in the end result, you got to paint that big steel pipe up there, and if it falls in the wintertime, you're not going to paint. So the sooner we get started on that, the better. We've been involved with this project, and at this point, I would like just to see what the council's thought is on going forward with that, so we can get started as soon as reasonably possible. I would expect some of this we could start even more quickly, like the pump station. You've already got your site at the tank at Richfield, and that pump station would go there, and it would pump into this new tank as part of the master plan that we've recently completed. So in addition, we would upgrade the Kinder pump station from 2,000 to 3,000 gallons per minute, so it can in turn send also more water over to the east side of 135. So all those pieces need to work together with the transmission main that you're going to send out for an RFQ about that. And then all that then down the road, then we'll provide that reinforcement to the east side of the system. Allow these developers to come in with some degree of confidence that you're going to have the water supply to meet their domestic demand plus their fire flow demand. It's the fire flow that really hurts you, is being able to get enough water out there to be able to satisfy that fire flow requirement. So with that, entertaining your thoughts, discussions on going forward with those final design of these projects so we can plan ahead for these things.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Is it a dollar amount? Is it a consensus to move forward?
I would like to develop an agreement for that. I think you got a proposal copy there from the, I think,
Yeah, there's no dollars on it.
Okay, right now, what I would like is for design services, the design phase at $225,000. And then there's a bidding phase at $20,000. Then if we enter construction phase, that's another $240,000 for the whole project. So the whole project will be $485,000. This will be spread over about 2 years period of time. My goal is to have multiple projects going at the same time so that we can build on some efficiencies of having staff out there to do like inspections and things of that nature, rather than having them all pieced out where we've got different staff coming at different times. So that's the way I would phase the agreement, and some of it would be lump sum. The design would be a lump sum type of, on us, and then some of it would be hourly if we scheduled less time and had less time on site, then those fees could be reduced somewhat.
So I guess what I would like to see, since I don't have any of those numbers in my packet here, Jim, maybe to see how those are all, how you come up with those prices for each one of those. I would like to see more of a, before I go through an approval on it.
Right.
I think we need to do it, but I just need to see what I'm going to approve
Right.
and what I'm going to get for the approval portion of that.
I can develop a draft agreement for you to review if that's the case from that. I've got a proposal that I have written that would give you a little bit more detail, and then you could see those numbers and how that was structured.
Right.
And then if you wanted more detail, I can provide that for you.
Right.
Thank you,
I
John.
think it's very important. I think we just need the numbers.
Sure, and
I'm gonna get them.
Exactly, and I want you to have confidence in that, and us to have the ability to start planning for this when summertime comes, so we can get this moving. So,
Thank you if you keep that for us.
Yep.
Okay.
very good.
Thanks, Jim, appreciate it.
I believe the last item is send out to bid our wastewater facility. We've been working with the architect, and they have final plans of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So we're at a point where we would like to send this out for bid and see what the market is for this project, and asking consensus or permission to go ahead and move forward with that.
Kim, what do we have left in our SRF funds?
I believe we're around 700,000, plus or minus. I need to double check with
What about the lift station upgrade?
lift station. We believe will be still in progress. We're waiting still on Thieneman to give us a firm number, but we believe we're around $500,000 or less for that project. And we've plugged in, Baker Tilly has plugged in funds on the local side to finish the project, because we know we're not going to have enough in SRF to do the lift station and the remodel.
I would like to see some firm numbers on that, what we have in SRF, because the numbers keep fluctuating,
Yeah,
and whether we can use it or whether we can't.
well, we definitely can use it. I can't confirm that, but the dollar amount, I'll get an update on where we're at with that. So would you like to have that before you give permission for this, or?
We're just sending the bid, right?
David has reviewed the bid documentation. We're making some changes, so it's pretty close to being ready to send out. And we've already committed, the dollars for the bidding process, so we're not asking for any additional funds to complete this step.
Can we use the SRF funds for the bidding expenses?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you think you'll have that ready, the bid package, by the next meeting?
It'll be ready in probably 2 days. I mean,
I think it was fine, it's just wiped out.
yeah, we had to add a few clauses and
So,
I'll make a request if you bring that back along with the SRF funds where we're at
sure.
with the latest estimates, and then we can vote on it
and
at
then
the next
also,
meeting.
yeah, and also I would like to know what's gonna happen, what are you gonna do with the waste, the water? The individual, if you're gonna take this down, what are you gonna do with the water? The employees of the water?
So the next meeting, Baker Tilly will be here to go over capital projects, and Part of that review is a new water facility building that's plugged in. There would need to be a temporary solution during construction of both projects. And we're looking at the middle building that's out at just next to this project on relocating the water staff during the remodel, and then hopefully the eventual construction of a new water distribution maintenance facility. But that'll be on your agenda at the next meeting with Baker Tilly to review all those water projects. And that will be one of them that's on that list. So yes, next meeting, I'll come back with the SRF remaining funds, and we'll have the finalized bid packet. And we'll put that on the agenda.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's it.
Sure, you just got out there. Thanks, we appreciate it.
Yep.
Anything else? Any board members have anything? Any comments, anything coming up here in Bargersville?
Happy Easter.
July, I have one question. Are they gonna do a condensed death and taxes? Have you heard that?
They are doing an event in the parking lot between the two buildings. It was scheduled for, I don't remember. I'm gonna guess. They're doing a smaller event. Of course, they have to change the name of their annual beer release. Very large lawsuit. But yeah, they're doing a scaled back event.
Okay, that's what I heard. I just didn't know if anybody heard anything. Mr. Little, if you want to come on up and introduce yourself, you can come up to the podium. Yeah, you're good. Go ahead and tell us what you got.
So my name is Scott Little. I'm the great-grandson of the Windishes. And I have a proposed picnic shelter for the Windish Park. It is a 12 by 16 shelter. And I did a bit of survey work as well regarding the location of it in the park. And of course, it would all be paid for by myself. And all I would really need would be a signature so that I can further get it approved by my committee.
Okay, and Julie, I think you've had contact maybe with Bethany in the office and talked about working with the Parks Department.
Yes, I believe it was about more than a year ago. The last real meeting that I attended with the Parks Department was, look here in the notes, June 17th, 2019, where I had preliminary recommendation for consideration of the project to the town council, approved 6-0. And so I'm here today to get a signature so that I can further go on to approve my further recommendations and signatures and approval through my Eagle Council so that I can start fundraising and getting the rest of the materials hashed out. Granted, I'm always open to suggestions through the Park Council, but
I don't remember can you read again what you said that was approved in the park?
yes, this is the minutes from June 17th, 2019. Board members were, hold on, wrong one. I'll start reading here at the second paragraph. It was noted that the Parks Board merely advises the town council and could not approve the project.
That's what
Yeah.
that's what I thought. I was gonna say, because I don't remember sitting that for recommendation to the town council. I was just clarifying what you had said initially.
I'm reading from the
Yeah.
minutes here. So what that means to me is that in order to get my beneficiary approval through the town's council, since the Parks Committee was not able to sign for that.
I'll tell you what, Julie, if you have time, and I'd be happy to come in and meet with Mr. Little and sit down with you, and we can kind of go over it, and then we can see where the merit is, or is the council okay with that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to him, given that there's been a fair amount of time since that Parks Board meeting. I'm happy to sit down and talk to you before the council wants to vote on that, make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay, are you?
And whatever application process.
Absolutely.
Completed properly.
Okay, so just get with Julie, and then we'll keep moving.
Got it.
Sure. Thanks for coming in.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I have a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion adjourned.
Second.
Second. Okay.